This was our last argument, after Patricia was served with the papers, but before we went to court. We were both pretending, playing roles for each other. I pretended I still wanted to talk things through, even though the coffin had slammed shut on our marriage the moment the private investigator showed me a photo of her kissing Bradley Jacobs. By the 5th minute of their first video recording, he was already in the grave, and I was covering his lid with dirt. As for Patricia, I don't know what exactly she was faking. Could it be that her ongoing infidelity is still a legitimate topic of discussion? Is it possible that we could somehow reasonably agree to stay married while she has sex with Bradley on the side? My wife, Patricia Wilson. As a girl, Anderson is a lawyer. Bradley is actually one of her assistants, and finding ways to be reasonable about completely unreasonable things is what she does for a living. At home, I guess she does it on a voluntary basis. Matt, be reasonable, was a constant refrain throughout most of our 25-year marriage. But after I handed her the documents, she added another phrase to her repertoire. The fragile male ego. I mean, Matt, it's not about me or who I sleep with or don't sleep with. It's about your fragile male ego. God, how I hate that phrase. And of course, we didn't get too far into this last discussion before she decided to quit. Matt, if you could see beyond your fragile male ego, you would realize that this is not a threat to you at all. She gave me her most reasonable smile. I don't love him, and in a few months we will both move on. You and I can still ride off into the sunset together. I have to give Patricia credit. She is very brave. As she spoke, she fingered the stem of a glass of her favorite unaged Australian Chardonnay, which stood next to a manila folder on our kitchen table. The folder, in turn, contained my divorce petition, as well as some of the crudest photographs that the private investigator was able to take. In other words, the Titanic has hit an iceberg, the band is playing the hymn, Nearer Lord to Thee, and women and children are being led to the lifeboats. Meanwhile, Patricia says that if I'm reasonable, if I can overcome my fragile male ego, we might be able to make it to the port. The thing is, Patricia thinks we're still negotiating, but I don't want to decide anything anymore. I want to end the conversation. Patricia, let's stop for a second, I said, interrupting her mid-sentence. You always talk about my fragile male ego, claiming that if I can overcome this, then everything will be fine with us. What exactly do you mean? Under the fragile male ego? She frowned for a moment, a little offended at being interrupted. Well, it's very simple, Matt. You are afraid of competition, afraid that somehow you won't measure up. She smiled at me again, affectionately, slightly condescendingly. But honey, you don't have to worry. You're my guy, my man. Who is Bradley then? She blushed. Bradley is just a toy, like a dildo or exercise machine. I'm not going to replace you or stop loving you. You have nothing to worry about. I gave her the slightly frowning, slightly dazed look that husbands use when they want their wives to feel superior, usually so we can get away with something. So, just to be clear, you think I'm worried that you're going to fall out of love with me or replace me with a younger model? She nodded. Her gentle smile became wider. And you think I'm a little vulnerable because of this? Do you think I need to be calmed down? Exactly. And darling, to you about nothing worry. I spoke slowly, as if I was wondering what was what. And somehow this fragility is connected with the fact that I am a man? She patted my hand, affectionately, condescendingly. Oh dear, it's not just you. All men have fragile egos. Her smile widened. Part of what we wives do is we support our guys, we support your self-confidence. I wanted to yell at her, ask her how the hell sex with a 25-year-old was supposed to support me, but I knew that would only make her horny. I wasn't surprised that Patricia bought into this whole women are stronger than men, pop psychology. We've been going around that nonsense for years. But I'm tired, we're almost at the end, and I'm tired of walking. You know, Patricia, you've been using this phrase for a long time, I said, glaring at her. I'm letting it slide. One of the things I've learned after 25 years with you is to pick my battles. But if there's one thing I want to leave you with today, It's understanding how much of this whole argument is complete bullshit. She started to object, but I continued. The reason people focus on the fragile male ego is because it seems abnormal. Yes, it's funny, at least for women, because men always seem so strong, and one punch is enough to make most men fall. The strong, scary big man suddenly curls up into a ball, trying to catch his breath. Do you know what I mean? Yes, but it's not funny to watch a woman in the same situation, is it? She nodded. But why not? If one person doubled over in pain is funny, why not another? Because it is violence. A man beating a woman is terrible. A woman beating a man, no? I shook my head. It doesn't matter. We've deviated from the topic. The thing is, watching a woman writhe in pain is not funny because we are taught to see women as fragile and weak. So the idea of making a woman cry is neither strange nor particularly funny. I don't understand what you're getting at. I took a deep breath. The fact is that it's the same with the ego. When I go to work every day, my friends making fun of my sexual prowess, the size of my assets, the size of my belly, my thinning hair, and anything else they can find to tease me. Now imagine if your friends did this to you. Imagine walking into an office and immediately receiving comments about every area that seems vulnerable to you. How would you feel? God, she said, I can't imagine a woman doing that to her friend. And of course, not all the time. But that's exactly what happens to us big, strong men. We shrug, reply with our comment, and go about our business. Now I was patting her hand, affectionately, condescendingly. I wonder if she noticed. In fact, the only area where I allow myself to feel fragile and vulnerable is in this house. This is where I take off my armor, show off my soft pink underbelly, and trust that you won't take advantage of it. What you see as my fragile male ego is me relaxing in the only place in the world where I feel like I can be fragile. Do you understand me? Patricia smiled and nodded. I saw her getting ready for another attack. But that's the point, Matt. You're safe here. You can be vulnerable. I'm not going to leave or give up what we have because of an affair. I took off my glasses and rubbed the bridge of my nose. You still don't understand, Patricia. I believed you when you said that I was the best lover in the world, although I knew that objectively it was not true. Hell, in the last 25 years, I've only had one mistress. Not that much experience. I chuckled. I believed you when you said that I was enough for you, that I was perfect for you, that my body still turned you on. I took you at your word, even when I knew you were just strengthening my ego. With you, I chose to be fragile because I knew I could trust you. And I'm so glad that you betrayed it, I shouted, slamming my hand on the table. Her eyes widened, and she fell silent. I took a deep breath and tried to find my calm voice again. About 6 months ago, I began to notice that you were not so careful about my fragility. I noticed how you expressed yourself when I took off my shirt, how you closed your eyes when we had sex. I caught snarky comments about going to the gym or giving up beer. She looked up at me, shocked, and I continued. I noticed that you stopped talking about your day or asking about mine. I noticed that you are not near me. Even before you started having sex with Bradley, I knew you were no longer safe for me. You weren't going to protect my vulnerability. Matt, She paused. Has the lawyer run out of words? I looked into her eyes, firmly. They sparkled, and I'm sure mine did too. I tried to fight it, Patricia. He invited you to dinner more often, commented on your clothes, tried to plan more vacations, more time just for us, tried to let you know that you're special to me, dressed better, started going to the gym, hoping you would remember how special I was to you. I looked down at my hands. Not now. I can't let her see the tears. I can't be vulnerable. Enough. It didn't work. You found reasons to cancel dinners, reasons why we couldn't go on vacation. While complimenting your clothes, I saw that you were worried that I had noticed that you were dressing for him. And after sending flowers to your office, I never received a response. I looked up at her. Later, when you started picking fights to avoid sex with me, I realized that I had failed. You've forgotten that I'm special, and you're well on your way to not being special to me anymore. I never quarreled to refuse sex. I groaned. Seriously? And that's all she got out of it? Patricia, can you just be honest? At least with yourself, if not with me. You pushed me away for 6 months. She looked up at me for a second, but then lowered them back to her hands. Charming hands. I shrugged. Be that as it may, yes, my ego was fragile then. I spent a lot of time in the office with the door closed, mourning our relationship. I tried to put on a strong face while at work so that you wouldn't see how deeply you hurt me. I started looking for reasons to leave home so as not to spend time with someone who could hurt me, and who now so clearly wants to do this. She looked shocked. I smiled slightly and patted her hand again. But you'll be glad to know that my fragile ego has healed. I found something else to do. Other people who made me feel special. She raised her head, a question in her eyes. I chuckled. No, I didn't cheat on you, but I've noticed that some of the women at the gym don't look like they're too turned off by my body these days. Anyway, by the time I had the evidence and talked to the lawyer, you wouldn't even know that my fragile male ego was ever bruised. Are we done? That's what I thought. After all, I said what I had to say and thought that maybe she had finally heard me. Maybe now we can move on. But no, I was married to a lawyer, and there is no such thing as a lost case. But Matt, there was no need for that, she screamed. Yes, I admit that lately I have been absent-minded, but I never stopped loving you. In my world, you always came first. I'm sorry that I didn't see how fragile you were, how much I hurt you. Patricia continued to talk, continued to weave beautiful pictures from her words, but I did not hear her. There's that word again. Fragile. She still didn't understand, and I realized that she probably never would. I no longer tried to do it in a good way. Patricia, stop it! I barked. I think she could hear the anger in my voice, even though I tried to hide it. I took a long, slow breath, released the air. You still don't understand, right? Still think it's all about my fragility, my fragile male ego, don't you? Darling, there is nothing shameful in this. All men, all people, Patricia, we all have fragile egos, and we trust those we care about to protect it. Well, yes, of course, but men are especially fragile. Well, that is, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I leaned towards her as if I wanted to trust her. I tried my best to fight off the sarcasm, but she didn't make it easy for me. Patricia, I spent the better part of the last 25 years trying to find a way to be honest with you without hurting your ego. When you asked me if that lipstick color suited you or if that dress made you look fat, I had to find an answer that wouldn't hurt your feelings, but also wouldn't make you leave the house looking like a crazy clown or a skinny sausage. Patricia blushed and her eyes widened. She was not used to such frankness. Suddenly, I realized that I was laughing. Patricia, when I say things like, honey, I'm not sure this lipstick goes with this blouse, or, wow, could you change your clothes? I'm not sure I'll be okay with our neighbors drooling on your chest all night. I was giving you an outlet. I pretended that I was unsure of what I was saying or that my fragile male ego was under threat. Do you know why I did this? She shook her head. All because I didn't want to jeopardize your ego. This is nonsense, Patricia seethed. I can think of several occasions when you said in no uncertain terms that something didn't look good. I chuckled. Oh, I admit that I messed up from time to time, I said. I think we both remember what happened those days when I commented on your eyeshadow. Like a girl of easy virtue. Or when he told you that, yes, that dress makes your butt look big. Big, offended eyes. A cold thank you for your honesty, and a week or two of freezing temperatures in the bedroom. I quickly learned that honesty is definitely overrated when it comes to telling your wife what you think. So you've been lying to me for 25 years? Patricia looked like she was ready to explode. It's time to end this. Let's just say I was giving you a selective and carefully edited version of the truth. He said that you are the most beautiful woman in the world, that your trips to the gym took 10 years off your age, That your ass is no match for Venus de Milo, giving you extravagant compliments that, like your compliments to me, were meant to show you how I see you, and, in the process, strengthen your fragile ego. My ego is not fragile. Patricia, you have a fat ass. She looked at me as if I had just punched her in the chest. What? I smiled at her. You have stretch marks. Your breasts are sagging. The roots of your hair turn gray and your teeth turn yellow. Those expensive creams that you buy do not hide the wrinkles on your face or your double chin. Darling, it's time to think about how to grow old gracefully because you can't fight it anymore. She gasped, her eyes widening. A few hits and everything is right on target. Jesus Christ, Matt. Patricia, remember the feeling that you are experiencing now? Think about it. Now imagine that I told you that I was having sex with some pretty young thing in the office, with someone 10 to 20 years younger than you, with a firm ass and ample breasts. She tries all her tricks on me because our relationship is still in its infancy, and she is just starting her game. Imagine that I come to your house from her a couple of times a week. How's your ego doing? Feeling a little fragile? Patricia turned slightly gray. Yes, she stammered. That's what you couldn't understand, Patricia. I'm not blind. You are not the most beautiful woman in the world. Hell, I could probably walk out the front door and find half a dozen women in our area who are objectively more attractive than you. I looked at her again, but her face was still long. I saw tears on her cheeks. You are not the most beautiful, not the smartest, and not the most fun, but to me, that's exactly what you were. You were the most beautiful, the most cheerful, the very best. Seeing all your flaws, I also saw the life we lived together. Your breasts are sagging because you fed them to our children. You have a fat ass because you carried them in your body. You have laugh lines because we laughed together. I looked at the road map of your body and saw the miles we had traveled together. I treasured each of those miles and the marks they left. She looked up, and it was like the last scene in a boxing movie, the one that happens right before the final knockout. She sobbed. And now? What do you see now? God. I thought, it suggests itself. It would be so easy. Part of me, about biggest part of me, wanted to deliver the knockout blow, the one that would leave her so destroyed that she would spend the next few years rushing from bed to bed, trying to prove that she still had it. And here she is, chin jutting out, waiting for the ceiling to collapse. But that's the whole point. It's no longer a matter of delivering a knockout blow. In fact, it's not even about Patricia. She looked in the mirror, saw that time was passing, and decided that she could find the fountain of youth in the young man. And then, when she was found out, she tried to resist, challenging and using tricky words. I think it is clear to both of us that she is weak and small. And now she will remain alone. For me, I cried my tears in the car, outside my office, in a park a mile from my house. I spent months hiding my pain from my wife while I struggled and then mourned the death of my marriage. Now I need to plan the rest of my life. The first step was to ask myself who I want to see in the mirror every morning. The guy who took the cheap shot? A guy who won some pointless competition with a weak woman? Bully? No. I wanted to see the same person I see now, a merciful person. Have a good one. An honest man. I took another deep breath and covered Patricia's hand with mine again. What do I see now? Now I see the woman with whom I spent the best years of my life. I see the one I trusted with my fragility as long as I could. I squeezed her hand. I see someone I'll really miss. She stood up, plastering a smile on her face. It was crooked, and it didn't help to cope with the tears. It doesn't have to be like that, she said. We can find our way back. No, we can't. I sighed. You're right about one thing, Patricia. I'm not fragile, but my trust was fragile. I'll never be able to take off my armor again. I'll never be able to let you in. Maybe we could live together. We could sleep in the same bed, go on vacation, and create some memories. But the thing is, I will always have my eye on you, wondering if you appreciate my body. Are you comparing me to someone else in bed? wondering if you stay with me because you love me or just out of habit. I'm not going to live like this, Patricia. I think I have another 30 or 40 years, and I don't want to spend them with someone I don't trust, pretending to feel safe and secure when I really don't. I don't deserve this. And honestly, if you really love me, you won't ask me to go through this. For all her legal skills, Patricia is quite transparent, at least to me. I could see in her eyes that she was considering counter-arguments, testing them, seeing which ones might work, and then I saw, when she realized that it was really over, it was as if the light had gone out in her eyes. Once Patricia decided not to fight, the divorce went quickly. As usual, we traded jewelry for tools and a TV, furniture for my partially restored Mustang. In the end, they sold the house, divided everything in half, and saved a lot of money on lawyers. The most important thing about divorce is that even when it is over, it is not over. I still see Patricia often, at our children's birthdays, anniversaries, Christmases. Sometimes she brings a gentleman with her, and there is usually a woman on my arm. It's been the same woman for the last year or so, and I can see from the look in Patricia's eyes that she understands what this means. I try not to gloat, but sometimes my ego, well, it can be a little fragile.
Thanks for hanging out and listening. If you liked the story, hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Make sure to check out our other wild tales right here on the end screen. Catch you in the next story.